Hello, welcome to the channel.
How I changed my life forever. I was not born with privilege. I came into this world in 1863 on a small farm in Greenfield Township, Michigan, the son of a farmer and a homemaker. There was no silver spoon in my mouth, no family fortune waiting for me. What I had was an old pocket watch, a curious mind, and a burning desire to understand how things worked. From a young age, I knew I didn't want to live my life the way I saw so many others around me live, bound to a routine, repeating the same tasks year after year without ever questioning whether there could be more to life. But here's the truth. Wanting a different life and actually creating it are two very different things. I didn't have a roadmap. I didn't have a mentor to tell me which steps to take. What I did have was an unshakable belief that I could shape my own destiny if I was willing to take risks, to make mistakes, and to keep moving forward no matter how many times I failed. The first change I made in my life was simple, but it was the seed that would grow into everything else. I decided to stop waiting for permission. Too many people spend their lives waiting for the right time, the right opportunity, or the approval of others. I realized early on that no one was going to hand me the life I wanted. If I wanted something different, I had to start building it myself. At 15, I left home. That was not an easy decision. My father wanted me to take over the family farm, but I had no love for farming. My passion was machinery, the whirring gears and moving parts that seemed to come alive under my hands. I left for Detroit to become an apprentice machinist. I didn't have money. I didn't have a plan beyond learn everything I can. But in that single decision to leave comfort for the unknown, I changed the trajectory of my life. The second great change came when I stopped measuring myself against others and started measuring myself against my own potential. I was surrounded by men who were satisfied with good enough. They showed up, did their job, collected their pay, and went home. There's nothing wrong with that for those who want it, but I knew that if I accepted that mindset, I would live a life of quiet regret. So I pushed myself. I stayed after hours to work on engines. I read every manual I could get my hands on. I made friends with the most skilled mechanics and asked endless questions. Of course, ambition always invites doubt from others and from yourself. People will tell you, you can't do that, or it's impossible, not because it is, but because it is impossible for them. When I first started experimenting with gasoline engines, people laughed. They said, "Henry, why would anyone need a self-propelled vehicle when we already have horses?" If I had listened to them, the Ford Motor Company would never have existed. But the most important turning point in my life came when I understood the power of persistence. I failed, and I failed often. My first company went bankrupt. So did my second. I had investors walk away, machines break down, designs fall apart. But each time I reminded myself of one principle. Failure is simply the tuition you pay for success. You cannot change your life forever if you give up the first, second, or even the 10th time you stumble. I changed my life by embracing three truths. No one is coming to save you. You must define your own standard of success. Failure is the necessary price for lasting change. Once I understood this, I began to see that life is not a series of random events. It's the result of the decisions you make day after day. And when you commit to making those decisions with purpose, you can transform everything. I remember working late one night in my small workshop, surrounded by the smell of oil and the hum of tools. The Model T was just a dream in my mind then, nothing more than sketches and ideas. I thought about the farmers who spent hours traveling to town, the families who rarely left their county, the workers who dreamed of more but could not reach it because the world was too far. I wanted to build something that would change that forever. That night, I made a promise to myself. I will not stop until every hardworking man can afford a car of his own. That promise gave my life direction. And that is another way I changed my life forever. I found a purpose bigger than myself. If your goal is only to make money, you will quit when the work gets hard. But if your goal is to solve a real problem, to make the world better in some way, then you will keep going long after others have given up. Looking back, the man I was before I made these choices, the boy on the farm, the uncertain apprentice, he would not recognize the man I became. And that's the point. You cannot change your life forever without changing yourself. You must outgrow your old limits, your old excuses, and your old fears. Once I understood that lasting change begins with decisions, I turned my attention to habits, because decisions alone are not enough. You can decide to change your life 100 times, but unless you back that decision with consistent action, it will remain a dream. Every morning in those early years, I woke before the sun. It wasn't because I enjoyed waking early. Truth be told, I loved sleep as much as any man. But I knew that discipline would build the bridge between where I was and where I wanted to be. I used those quiet hours to work on my designs, read about mechanical innovations, or repair engines for extra money. Those early mornings taught me a valuable lesson. Success is not found in the grand moments of triumph. It is built quietly, in the hours when no one is watching. I also learned the importance of focusing on one thing at a time. When you try to chase too many dreams at once, you end up catching none of them. I had many ideas machines, tools, improvements to farm equipment, but I realized that if I wanted to change my life forever, I needed to put my full energy into one mission: building an affordable automobile. Focusing on one goal gave me clarity. It allowed me to say no to opportunities that didn't serve my greater purpose. Many people fear saying no because they think they might miss something. But in truth, every yes to the wrong thing is a no to the right thing. My yes was to the automobile, and I gave it everything. Another shift that changed my life was how I looked at problems. Most people avoid problems. They run from them, complain about them, or try to work around them. I decided to run toward them. I made a habit of asking myself, what is the real cause of this problem? How can it be solved in a way that no one has tried before? When we were developing the Model T, one of the biggest challenges was not the design of the car itself, it was the production process. Cars were being built by hand, slowly, at great cost. If I couldn't solve that problem, the car would remain a luxury for the rich. So I studied factories, watched how workers moved, and experimented with ways to speed up assembly. That led to the moving assembly line, which didn't just change my life, it changed the world. Here's the thing about solving problems. Each time you overcome one, you prove to yourself that you are capable of more than you thought. And with each solved problem, your confidence grows and your life changes in ways you couldn't have predicted. But even with focus and problem solving, there's a danger: fear. Fear will creep into your mind every time you stand on the edge of something new. Fear of failure, fear of ridicule, fear that you're not ready. I faced that fear many times when I left the farm, when I started my first company, when I gambled everything on the assembly line. What I learned is this: fear does not disappear before you act. It disappears because you act. Waiting for fear to go away before making your move is like waiting for the sea to become still before setting sail. It will never happen. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to move forward in spite of it. One of the greatest choices I made, the one that truly altered my life forever, was to see fear not as a stop sign, but as a compass. If something scared me, I leaned toward it, because I knew that fear often marks the place where growth is waiting. And as I grew, my circle changed. You cannot change your life forever if you keep the same environment that keeps you small. I sought out men and women who were curious, determined, and optimistic. I distanced myself from those who always saw the cloud instead of the silver lining. Not because I thought I was better than them, but because I understood that their mindset could quietly erode my own. If I could give one piece of advice to anyone who wants to change their life forever, it would be this: find people who believe in progress and spend as much time with them as you can. You will absorb their energy, their ideas, and their ambition. Before you know it, you will start thinking bigger, acting bolder, and moving faster toward your goals. Of course, not every day was a victory. There were days when I questioned everything. Days when I thought maybe the critics were right. Maybe I was chasing an impossible dream. But I learned that doubt is like rust. If you let it sit, it will eat away at your foundation. The only way to remove it is to keep working, to keep moving forward. It was during one of those low points that I made another decision that changed my life forever. I decided to view setbacks not as signs that I should quit, but as signals that I was getting closer to the solution. That shift in mindset was like turning a key in a locked door. Suddenly, every challenge became an opportunity in disguise. When the Model T finally became a reality in 1908, it was more than a machine. It was proof that my vision had been right. But here's what most people don't realize. Success, once achieved, can be as dangerous as failure. Success has a way of making you comfortable. It whispers to you, you've made it. You can relax now. That's how many great companies and many great lives fall into decline. They stop moving forward. I refused to let that happen to me. I understood that if I wanted the change in my life to be permanent, I couldn't treat success as a finish line. So even as the Model T was breaking records and selling faster than we could make it, I kept asking myself, what's next? Not just for me, but for the world. Could we make cars even cheaper? Could we build them faster? Could we improve their reliability? Could we create new ways for people to travel, work, and live? This mindset that there is always a next challenge was one of the greatest decisions I ever made. It kept me from falling into the trap of complacency. It kept me growing, learning, and adapting. And in truth, it kept me alive. Another change that shaped my life was the way I treated my workers. At the time, most factories paid laborers just enough to survive, keeping them in a cycle of poverty. I decided to double the average wage to $5 a day. People thought I was insane. They said it would bankrupt the company. But I understood something they didn't. When you treat people with respect, they give you their best work. That decision reduced turnover, attracted skilled labor, and made it possible for my own workers to afford the cars they were building. That moment taught me something profound. Changing your life forever often requires going against the crowd. If you're doing what everyone else is doing, you're not leading, you're following. And if you're following, you can't expect to create extraordinary results. Of course, there were storms along the way. I faced lawsuits, fierce competition, labor strikes, and even public criticism for some of my ideas. There were moments when the weight of responsibility felt unbearable. But I discovered that responsibility, like strength, grows the more you use it. Each new challenge forced me to think deeper, act faster, and become more resilient. Here's a truth many won't tell you. When you change your life forever, you will face resistance, not just from strangers, but from the people closest to you. Friends may not understand, family may worry. Colleagues may feel threatened. That's because your growth forces them to confront their own comfort zones. Some will join you on your journey, others will try to pull you back. You must decide who you will listen to. One of the hardest lessons I learned was that not everyone who starts with you will finish with you. And that's okay. Your journey is your own, and sometimes the price of progress is walking alone for a while. But through it all, I held to one guiding principle. The purpose of progress is not just to improve your own life, but to create something that improves the lives of others. That belief anchored me when the seas got rough. It reminded me that the work was worth it. When I looked at the Model T rolling off the assembly line, I didn't just see a car. I saw a farm boy who could now visit the city in an afternoon, a factory worker who could take his family on a Sunday drive, a teacher who could reach more students, a doctor who could reach more patients. I saw the ripple effect of change, and I realized that was the true reward for all those years of persistence. In the end, changing my life forever wasn't about a single moment or invention. It was about a pattern, a series of decisions, habits, and beliefs that, over time, transformed not just my circumstances, but my very identity. I learned to take bold risks when others hesitated. I learned to see problems as opportunities. I learned to measure my worth by my own standards, not by the opinions of others. I learned to surround myself with people who believed in progress. And above all, I learned that the only real failure is giving up before you've reached your potential. Even now, when I look back at that farm boy in Michigan, I see someone who had no idea just how far he could go, but who believed enough to take the first step. And that, more than any invention, is the reason my life changed forever. Now, I want to speak directly to you. Changing your life forever will not happen by accident. No one will knock on your door with an opportunity wrapped in gold. No one will give you permission to follow your dream. If you're waiting for the right moment, I'll tell you plainly, it's not coming. The right moment is whenever you decide to take the first step. I was just a boy from a small farm in Michigan. I didn't have more talent than you. I didn't have more intelligence. I wasn't born into wealth or influence. What I had was a decision that I would not live the same day over and over until my life was gone. And that's the decision you must make. Decide today, not tomorrow. Because tomorrow is the tool of procrastination. Tomorrow is where dreams go to die. If you want a different life, you must begin now. But understand this. The change you're seeking won't come from a single grand gesture. It will come from the daily choices you make when no one is watching. It will come from the mornings you rise early, the nights you work late, the problems you face head-on instead of avoiding. It will come when you stop letting fear dictate your actions. Fear will always be there. It never truly leaves, but it loses its power when you move forward anyway. You must be willing to feel afraid and still act. That is how courage is built. You must also be willing to stand apart. People will doubt you, laugh at you, even try to pull you back down. Let them. Their doubts are not your destiny. The only voice you must obey is the one inside you that says, "There is more for me, and I will not stop until I reach it." And here's the most important truth I can give you. When you change your life, you do not change it for yourself alone. Your courage will inspire others. Your progress will create opportunities for them. Your determination will prove to them that they too can rise above the life they've settled for. So ask yourself, when you are old and looking back, will you be proud of the story you've written? Will you be able to say, "I lived with purpose, I acted with courage, I changed my life forever"? Or will you wish you had started when you had the chance? You have that chance now. Not next week, not next year. Now. I began my journey with nothing more than curiosity, determination, and a refusal to quit. Those three things carried me from a farm boy to the founder of one of the most influential companies in history. Imagine what they can do for you if you choose to start. So take that first step, and then the next, and the next after that. One day, you'll look back and realize that you are no longer the same person you were. You'll see that your life is not just better, it is unrecognizable from what it once was, and that will be the moment you know. You have changed your life forever. Let me tell you one more thing before we part ways. Something I wish someone had told me when I was young. Your life will pass faster than you can imagine. One day you're 20, dreaming of what you might become, and the next you're 50, wondering where all the time went. Most people never realize how precious their days are until they've wasted most of them. Do not wait for life to hand you a clear path. It won't. You must carve that path yourself, one choice, one step, one action at a time. People will try to convince you to be realistic. I tell you, be determined instead. Realism builds fences, determination tears them down. The ones who change the world, the ones who live lives worth remembering, are the ones who dare to imagine something better and refuse to let go until it's real. You will have moments when you feel small, when you doubt your worth, when you question if the struggle is worth it. That's when you must remember every great achievement in history was built by someone who felt exactly like you do now, but kept going anyway. Do not let fear of looking foolish stop you from trying. The man who never fails is the man who never attempts anything worth doing. If you stumble, stand up. If you fall, rise again. If you fail, learn and press forward. The only true failure is surrender. And when you win, and you will not just gain success, you will gain yourself. The person you become in the pursuit of your dream will be stronger, wiser, and more capable than the person you are today. So promise yourself this, that when your story is told, it will not be a story of hesitation and regret, but a story of courage, action, and transformation. Do something today, no matter how small, that moves you toward the life you want. Do something tomorrow and the day after. Let that chain of action never be broken. Because one day you will wake up, look around, and realize that you are living the very life you once thought was impossible. And in that moment, you will understand. You did not just change your circumstances, you changed who you are. And that is how you change your life forever.